and we have students going to Bristol Tech instead of Oliver Wolcott because the program that they're interested in is not offered at Oliver Wolcott, or?
They may not have been accepted by Oliver Wolcott.
Okay.
Jen?
The $725,433 is projected. Are we reimbursed any of that by the state, or does that all come out of our?
It's regular education, so no, that we wouldn't be reimbursed, but that's a good question. So the next piece is, it's sort of a snapshot of what you're going to get tomorrow evening. I know that.
There's 2 handouts.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, you only got the 2 handouts. This is just kind of like getting you ready for tomorrow. So the paraprofessionals piece, just giving you a little bit of an idea of what we're doing. We're looking at all of the programs in the district that are district-wide, the RISE programs and the REACH program, Voices program. And what I will provide also is an example, a synopsis of what each program does, because I know folks, so you have it, and even for folks that are just joined the board recently, this way it'll make sense, right? So I'll have that for you, as well as where each program is housed, the amount of students that are served, the amount of general paras, special education teachers, the amount of one-on-one paras, and it will be broken up by grade. Okay, we're just finishing up the tallies, so we want to make sure it's all verified by the sites and the building principals. So we will be getting that out to you tomorrow. I'll handing it in to you so that you can see. But that I know is a piece that is really important, because it's sort of the the foundation of the whole special education programming. So this way you'll have your specific numbers. That does fluctuate, just like outplacement does at times. Certain students are found eligible, etc. But I think that at this time of the year, in March, we have a really solid understanding of who the students are, and I don't think it will be changing too much. Although I just spoke with a principal, and we have one more student. So, so that's just what we'll be giving to you tomorrow.
I think it'll show you too how we move from the least restrictive environment to our environments that are, demand more of the teachers and paraeducators.
And thanks for reminding me. You'll also get a spreadsheet of all the programs and all the costs associated. This, what I call the specialized special education programs, the RISE, the REACH. And so we've put in there, benefits, we've put in their salaries, we've put in there the amount of students, the paras. And then I come up with sort of, an average cost that it would cost for the district to outplace that same student in one of the very, places, like ACES or something like that, so that you could look at what, our cost savings is and the benefit of having those programs and keeping students here with us, and having families have their children nearby and that kind of thing. But that you'll be receiving that tomorrow as well. Yes.
As far as these 3 schools are concerned, what's the requirement that allows these children to make this choice?
The choice law, the law that we are, because we have state co-ag technical schools in our area, students are allowed the choice of attending these schools.
It's Sheff versus O'Neill.
No, this was even before Sheff, but this is it comes under school choice.
So they don't have to actually articulate that they're going to get a certain class or a certain subject matter in any one of these schools.
Yes, that's like they go to Umogo for agriculture, and Region 7 offers marine biology.
So they do have to articulate some explanation for why they want to go to one of these schools.
students?
Yes.
And yes. But they apply, they have to be accepted.
Well,
The magnet schools are a blind lottery, where you apply, and then if your number comes up, you get accepted to the school. But with Logo, Oliver Wolcott, and Region 7, these students have to apply, and there's a whole application process that they go through.
well, you know, it's somewhat, I want to say shameful, but it does distort the quality of education that's provided for in the Torrington School District if you're letting, let's say, students that are more likely to statistically perform at a higher level are leaving your school, and they may or may not be getting any more quality of education than they would if they were just to stay here. It seems like the way this, and I think this is what you were talking about in your letter, I think that the state is doing the community a disservice, Torrington anyway, a disservice, by somewhat rating what would be students who would add to the statistical level of our school as far as how well we can perform with any and all our students.
And what's gonna even get more difficult, I don't know, maybe 5, 10 years from now, is that the smaller towns around us, their population is shrinking, their school-age population is shrinking. So they will be looking to Torrington to offer, openings in their programs. They'll be looking for more students coming from Torrington to enter their programs. As will the magnet schools, because it's, for next year, they're predicting 10,000 fewer children in Connecticut public schools. And Torrington, for the past probably 40, 50 years, has our numbers on a grade level. The births in Torrington every year and the number who enter our schools, it's been anywhere from about 365 to 410, 412. And it's been pretty constant. What happens though is when choice enters the picture, we're seeing our grade level count decrease. And I do believe it will get worse.
Yes, I mean.
And the rule is that the money follows the child.
But how do we adjust, as far, what adjustments do we make as we lose these students to take that money that is being allocated for our entire school budget and taking that out of our budget? As far
That's
as
where the
expense.
problem lays. Taking 6 kindergartners out district-wide
Right.
doesn't afford us enough to eliminate a teacher. So that's why it's more problematic for the crack schools, I think, just because of it going from pre-K to 12.
But how does it affect our cost per student ratio that we have to articulate and maintain? When you see statistics like Torrington spends on average $12,000 a year and Farmington spends $16,000 a year, how do these numbers come into play as far as raising or decreasing that average of $12,000?
I can't tell you the cost. Well, we could probably figure it out.
Well, it would depend on the tuition, depending on where they're going, and any
Yeah.
transportation depending on regular ed or special, right?
Yeah.
And just something to think about, there's a bill right now that I saw the other day, that, as I understand it, when you get your October enrollment numbers, if you lose kids from your district, instead of losing that set, like $3,000 or whatever it is per child, from your money that the city would get, they're looking to potentially take half of your net current expenditure per child NCEP, which is $15,929. So they would whack that in half if this bill were to pass, as I understand it. So they would take the larger of the number, which is really going to hurt, you know, a school district.
John?
It hurt us.
State formula for funding regional schools is different, isn't it? It started out that way, and I haven't seen that it's changed.
I can't answer that.
It started out when those towns were poorer than the cities, and the state encouraged them with a different funding program to regionalize, to save money. I think it'd be tough to say that Torrington is richer than the constituent towns of either Region 6 or Region 7. But the state, of course, in its fantasy land, I think is still funding them different.
The other piece too is that we've now been told that if we don't, for students who are attending magnet schools, if we don't pay the tuition, the money will come out of our excess cost before we get it from the state. So that it be, and they claim that it costs, what was it, $18,200 to educate a child in a magnet school. So they're gonna make sure that they get every penny from every town.
It continues your point, Andrew, about really needing to intervene with the legislature. We're dismal at that. As a board, we are dismal at interacting with them.
I'm just wondering who the secretaries, those bureaucrats over in Hartford are that you can go face to face with by us, our legislators, because they probably have much less knowledge of these issues as the people who sit at the front of this table. If you can get a hold of those people who work with these numbers, maybe we would have more success to understand the formula and give them data that they may say, well, how come you're not giving us this data here? Have you been providing this for the last several years? You always have a good chance of talking to those people, just like you would if you came to this district and talked to people in those buildings.
If you know, right now when you look at what we pay for magnet schools, it's, any district in the Hartford County would, you know, almost laugh at it because they're paying millions and millions for students in their districts to go to magnet school. They've added 19 schools to the Hartford area, plus every Hartford school now is a magnet school. And when you see these beautiful, brand new, and many of the towns around Hartford, like Vernon, Manchester, you know, they're in the same situation that we're in. They are really getting slammed.
Except the towns that you named are access.
Alliance.
Alliance.
They are Alliance, yes, they are.
Alliance districts, yeah.
All right, are you all set?
Yes.
Thank you.
Newly revised policies, graduation requirements.
Correct. Thank you. Policy, as always, has been very busy, which is nice. That way we don't get bored. Right. We've been working very hard on 3 different policies you see listed here. I will just sort of take these in order. First of which is bylaws. We had to clean up a few sections, the section in particular on standing committees, to make sure that we had the proper list of standing committees to also include grievance and expulsion. And as well, we had a good discussion and came up with some excellent language regarding alternates. So you can see for each of these committees, that language has been added. So those are really the big changes in the bylaws. The graduation requirements next. Well, in your pack, I'll go in the order of your packet, which is a little different than the agenda. The next one will be students with outstanding food service account balances. We've been having an issue with students whose accounts are in the negative balance. I think we've totaled up close to 38 or 39,000 as of our last count. We had a very good discussion with representatives from Education Connection, who manage our cafeterias, who came in and gave us a good tutorial on how the cafeteria works and the 5 components of a reimbursable lunch and other really excellent information to help us really craft language that would be useful. And what we really came up with here is there's some basic language of the policy, but then you can see how the charging a meal would work. So we've codified how that would go forward. Obviously, every child gets fed. You know, that was very important to all of us on the committee, that, you know, the child comes first. But there's certain criteria to feed them a good balanced lunch that then doesn't get us into issue with the type of reimbursement we would get and how we would pay for it. So we had to just ensure that it wasn't a reimbursable lunch, and you can see the language in it that we're putting forward. I'm sure, yes.
I'd like to add that the Ed Connection people were very willing to work with us, and it was, a lot of it was communication with them and with us, so we got together and really kind of tightened things up, and I think maybe run a little smoother.
Yeah, we talked about going through the line and placement of cash registers, and we really got down into the weeds with how a cafeteria works. It was really a good discussion. I think the outgrowth of that was a very good policy. And then finally, in your packet is graduation requirements. Mr. Bain was president policy and was very helpful in giving us the information that was needed to write a good policy on graduation requirements. And what it basically comes down to is, as of the class of 2020, the State Department of Education has changed to increase the minimum credits to graduate from high school to 25. So currently, to graduate from Torrington High School, it's 22. So the only language in this that has changed is you'll see on page 1 of the policy is the credits, because what we're doing is the class of 2019, we are increasing it to 23 credits with the addition of, I believe, an elective credit. And then for the class of 2020, the requirement is 4 years of English, math, and science. So, you know, to increase to the 25. In addition, there's language that was also added for a community service graduation requirement. Commencing with the class of 2019, you can certainly read that. There will be a list of opportunities that will be kept, you know, in the guidance office, so they can certainly see their counselor for it. So those are the 3 policies that we're looking forward to the board to pass and to approve.
I do, about the lunch policy, actually, and I might have missed it since I had to step out for a minute. We had discussed the possibility of eliminating cash transactions.
Yes.
And unless I missed it, I didn't see it.
I don't know if that would be written into the policy, or that would be an operational.
Did we get anywhere on that from the last?
I have not pursued it as far as eliminating cash transactions.
Because I know we identified that as being an issue, right? Kids bringing
Yep.
$5 to school, then they get the free lunch, then they go buy snacks?
Right, they're going to, my understanding was they're going to look at it this year, and any changes will happen next year.
Sure, I didn't think it was gonna be an overnight thing, I just didn't know
But
if we
they're
made
going
any
to
progress.
be more aware of it and really, you know, try to tighten that up also, because that was an area they were concerned with as well.
Right, okay.
I have a question on the lunch one at the end. You have outstanding balances can prohibit a student from being allowed to participate in school activities. The last page, sorry. What was the,
I think the thinking was if it came to a point where all of the steps were taken to collect the money was not collected, that is a possible consequence.
I mean, I'll say, I'm not in support of punishing kids for
Same here.
poor parenting. I mean, it's not a
Yeah,
simple
we gotta
grader's
revisit this, because
fault.
I don't want to,
Yeah.
I'm with you, not punishing the kids, we gotta make sure that the parents are being responsible, doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, because I think a lot of this stuff is just negligence, really. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Right. I mean,
You
that
got
would
me
be
fired
my
up when you brought that
concern.
up.
It was also a concern of mine, but I believe this more pertains to the older students who come in with their money and they'll buy a snack and then they'll go home and get lunch. And I think this is more for the older student, not that elementary level.
But it doesn't say that. It leaves
Right,
it
but I
very
think-
discretionary.
I could be more compromising if it's for the older kids. I'd at least be open to the.
It doesn't say we will do it, but we're reserving the right to do that, and.
But it can be done.
Right, and there, obviously you don't do that with a little kid, plus there's less you have over them anyway, as far as activities goes. But you might get a high school kid's attention if they can't go to a dance or something, because they've been playing games with the system.
And that
That's
assumes
the
that-
way I look at that language.
But that
Right, but I
assumes
think-
that we're sure that they're actually playing the game.
Well, that's why it's discretionary on our part.
Right.
Once we've determined that,
I think
we
it's-
can do it. My solution, remember, was to refer these people to DCF anyway,
Right.
if they neglect the kid by not sending them with money.
I think we have plenty of social services in the building that could address these issues,
Well,
that
and
we don't need to
that
report
was-
our
That was
families.
something we talked about in
Right.
the committee. so.
If you look through the charging of the meals, I mean, if the 1 through 4 especially are carried out, all of them, it won't come to that because the social worker is involved, I mean, the parent, and it's just going to be more, it's going to be tightened more.
Right, and I think once there's proof in my mind that the adults are doing what they're supposed to be doing, then I would be more comfortable with being sure that the policy will work in accordance with what we're saying it's going to do. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think a great deal of the responsibility needs to fall on the parents with this, and we need.
And I think it just, the follow-through has not been there.
Right.
And this would,
We
I'm
haven't.
100% sure, but ensure that the policy will be.
Right, we haven't proved that our process during lunch or after these charges have been tallied up is even effective at all.
I weigh in favor of the cash-free lunch program, just in terms of, anytime you have cash, you have potential issues with, well,
Right.
that also, but, you know, from an Oregon standpoint, not that anything's ever happened, nor do I think it ever would, but it's always a concern when you're dealing with cash.
That's why Ed Connection is going to come back to us with a cost of what it would be. They're researching.
But these are operational, as it's been
Correct.
pointed out, rather than
Correct.
policy.
Rather than policy, right?
Right, and I think some of the function of this process has to be fixed first prior to making the policy, so that we fully understand what issues still exist post-course correction.
I think the reason we need this policy is more for the alternative menu items if kids are charging. Because the issue is we have a $38,000 balance, and it's all in reimbursable lunches. We can't use the reimbursement money to pay for that, because in essence, because the state's closed that down, because in essence, what districts were doing, and, it wasn't through any malfeasance, it's just the way things were always done, is they would get the reimbursement money and then pay for the reimbursed free meals they gave away with the reimbursement money, so they're giving the government back some of their money. So the reason we need this in place is so the cafeterias, and I understand the other issues we're talking about, but what's really important is that this is in place, then the cafeterias the kids will still get a lunch, but it will be a lunch that isn't then a reimbursable lunch, because it doesn't have, as Holly explains, 3 out of the 5 components. So I think it's very important that we have this in here, because the kids, when they charge, they get a reimbursable lunch, and then the Board of Ed's gonna be stuck with that bill. So, I think that was really the big driver behind this, and the other things in here are important, but I think it's important that the cafeterias, the management in the cafeterias, have a policy, and then for that alternative menu items, that they're making the lunches with the commodities instead of with the reimbursable food.
I just want to make sure we're being careful that we're not creating a policy that directly or indirectly affects kids whose only meal of the day is the one that they get at the school.
And that was
I'm
my
very
concern.
concerned about that,
Right.
regardless of age.
Sure.
I don't want to have something that's so robust that we completely miss those kids that maybe the only hot meal is the one they get here.
Everybody gets a lunch. Everybody will get a lunch. It won't be a reimbursable lunch. So some of it is we're just splitting that hair with, and I totally get your point, and I'm 110% with you, because, I taught in 2 elementary schools, and, the last thing you want to see is any child, K through 12, pre-K through 12, go hungry. I get it.
I just want to make sure it's
And
right.
in one
so
of
we
my
don't mess
schools,
up.
we fed an awful lot of kids breakfast, and, they were the only 2 probably real meals some of them got. I totally get that. I spent a lot of time in the classroom. I fully feel that. But I also, from the other standpoint, we just need to make sure that we're doing, our part to ensure that there is a policy that going forward will ensure that then the board isn't stuck with a bill that they have to pay for. So, unfortunately, we have 2 things that are very different that are at that crux.
Right.
John?
Just to clear up a point, we talk about Board of Education money, no such thing.
I mean,
It's
the taxpayer.
money.
You're absolutely right.
Taxpayer.
You're absolutely right. So,
Bill, I just had one other question. Do we have any forecast of what the budgetary impact is going to be for the increase in the graduation requirements?
I suppose we could figure, I think some of the reason that we're scaling it up the way we did is to sort of ease it into the budget, but I guess we can forecast that out.
Well, I'm just.
It's
that makes
obviously we
me-
have to do it, but, I think that's a very good question. And I would think that's the projection.
I think it's just more to the point,
Mm.
Torrington is not raising their graduation
Right.
requirements.
The state is,
State's telling
the state
us.
has raised the minimum.
And now we're gonna have to come up with a way to give
To pay
every
for it.
student 5 more credits. And
Right.
Did I read though that the state is revisiting that?
They may, but right now it's,
I think they're gonna delay.
Delay implementation.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? I barely have, do students have enough time for the 25 credits?
no problem not. I know my daughter, well, I
Because
don't know,
I
she was
barely
in
have
high
enough
school.
to, I have to take a half year, but no one would, that would help me just to fulfill the 22.
We may have to add another period. 5 more days is full for you. You go on Saturdays too.
Right. Just get nervous, a very good question.
Yeah, blame my parents. No, like it won't affect me, just like, because.
Question on the bylaws. On page 10, for the Board of Education self-evaluation, I see that it's no longer going to be responsibility of the Personnel Committee, so I want to thank you for that. But you left it as an ad hoc committee assigned by the board chair, and ad hoc committees could be as little as 1 person. Are we sure we want to just put one person or the potential for one person in charge of creating the entire evaluation process?
Where are you, Dan? Page 10.
No, an ad hoc committee can be however many. Page 10 of the, sorry, my iPad keeps crashing.
Page 10.
It's an Apple.
54.
Two, section 2. Section 2.
Section 3 at the bottom.
Oh.
That's how it currently reads. We never touched that.
No, I know, I'm just saying. I didn't know whether in the board evaluation provisions that was going to be changed, because again, currently it's the personnel committee that does it, but it could be,
It hasn't been changed.
no, it hasn't been changed, it's still the same language.
We didn't look
But-
at that section. We
But I'm
only-
just, again, well, I'm saying, obviously, ad hoc committees, we've done it for building committees where we've just assigned Dave Becerra as one person to do it. When we did the IT as an ad hoc committee, it was just myself. For the evaluation process, I'm not sure just saying an ad hoc committee, which could be solely a discretionary individual, as being the best case of that. I might want to see that as a minimum of 3 or 4 people as the ad hoc committee. Again, you can leave it as assigned by the board or assigned by the chairman, but currently, they have the personnel committee doing it. In the future, it could be a different board chair, and they may say, okay, I want to do this as the ad hoc committee myself. But because of the fact that the ad hoc committee gives such latitude, I'm not sure that's the best language for it.
See, you're giving us money.
Hey, you took the work off of me. I'm okay with it.
Summer's coming up.
That one has come back at you.
Add that to the list, Joe.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll revisit that.
Any
No,
other
we don't have
questions
any more.
on these? Update on SBAC testing?
So I'm bringing you an update on SBAC testing, and I'm also bringing you good news. And last year, that would have been an oxymoron, because we went through the field testing, which was quite hellacious, kind of crazy, although we had the technology, just the state had some difficulties to go through. This year, the middle school is starting as our guinea pigs. They've already started the smart balance testing, and things are going well. It was not delayed by the state this year. We had a little glitch one morning, just getting information up and getting the test running, but that was a little state issue, but then everything was fine. We've had 3 days now of testing and moving forward. So there are some differences and similarities to the field test. Field test was just the pilot. This year, it's free. It's still administered on the computers. You still have the same students taking the test, grades 3 through 5, and 6 through 8, as well as 11. Still testing the same subjects, reading, writing, and math. Length of time, we've been able to pare that down just a little bit, refine it a little, but still, it's going to take a chunk of time, about a week per grade level and 1 week for makeups, except for Torringford, just because they have so many students and we don't have enough computers. So we really do need 6 to 8 weeks. Teacher training and administration, on administration and practice tests still needs to occur and is occurring at each one of the sites. We do have 40 years at each one of the sites, and that's making it a lot easier to roll out this process. So some of the differences, it is computer adaptive. Last year we kept saying it was going to be computer adaptive. They took all the information from the field tests that they did last year so that they could make it computer adaptive. The hope was if a student was taking the test in 3rd grade, it would be adaptive all the way down to 2nd grade and all the way up to 4th grade. However, it's only computer adaptive within the grade level that the student is taking the test. Test scores will be reported to the public, so at some point I will be doing another presentation and sharing those scores with you. And we do have an adaptation for modification for special education. That one happens to be called the CTAA. We're lucky to have enough laptops at the middle school, and TMS is loaning the laptops to the elementary schools during their testing cycle. That's the only way that we've been able to take the testing at a month to 6 week time chunk. So if you look at the bottom of the differences from last year's field test, you'll see the windows are in about a month's time. TMS is going first, it's already started, and then is going all the way up to the vacation time. And then what will happen is during our break, the laptops will go to the elementary schools, at least 13 carts of them. And the elementary schools will be using their computer labs, their media centers, and their classrooms with the laptop carts, as well as their special ed carts. Those will be distributed. Torringford will probably take, as I said, a lot longer because in some cases they're almost double the enrollment of a school like Southwest. THS will take the test, really being cognizant of when AP tests are being given, so they're waiting until those are done, and so they will be testing from May 11th to May 29th. Issues that still remain. We're happy that the middle school has been nice enough to share the laptops. Every time we are taking this test, however, it ties up computer labs, it ties up media centers. Regular instruction is not happening during that time at any of our schools. Same thing at the middle school. While the middle school is loaning us their laptops, that means that the middle school is not able to have their regular instruction. These laptops on the carts at the middle school are just a regular part of their instruction. It's a great opportunity. They have the mobile accessibility, so if they're doing a science lab, if they're out in the field, if they're doing a project, they can still utilize and have the technology at the ready. They have the access. At the elementary schools, they have now been using those SPED laptop carts as well as the computer lab and the media centers for regular instruction, remembering that when we go through the testing time, we won't be able to use any of those areas. So all of the research projects, the hands-on, a lot of the science-based projects that are going on in the spring really come to a halt during this testing time, and that's predominantly in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. At the elementary levels, you're looking at the middle school. It's really difficult for them to do without their carts for 6th, 7th, and 8th in all grades, particularly 8th grade when they're doing the STEM. That's really a growing program. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics projects. A lot of hands-on, a lot of technology integrated into those projects. And then just the whole piece for the high school. If you look even in this room, we really don't have enough computers for our students to even have a lab in a media center for instruction. There's no smart board in here. It's really not an instructional center. Why am I bringing this up? Well, it's in the budget. When we talk and when you see the laptop carts in the budget, you now have some sense of why we're requesting it. And I just want to bring home the point, it's not just for the testing, it is also for the daily instruction. The requirement now for the state standards is to make sure that we have technology instruction in every lesson that we do. The laptops make it a lot easier, and even though we'd love to have desktops because of permanency and they last a lot longer, we know that piece of it. There's just not enough space in each classroom to have that type of setup. And now that we have to do a lot of projects in the field, a lot of projects hands-on, where students are working together, desktops are not always the easiest way to be accessing that technology. So you see a lot of the issues that I've just brought up in the issues that remain. The other piece that you will see reflected in the budget, and I just wanted to give just a little bit of background, is testing has become a tech world now. It's no longer pencil and paper. Yes, we are still doing the CMT using pencil and paper for science in 5th grade and 8th grade and 10th grade, and students still bubble in those questions and those little sheets. However, most of the testing, including the testing that will be required of kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 3rd grade next year by the state of Connecticut, in the area of reading will also have to be online. So now we're really, we used to be able to say, it's really only from 3rd to 12th that we really need to worry about. We're really looking at targeting our students from the get-go, from kindergarten to 12th grade. And I see our parent who was here the other night when she came to our public hearing, expressing some of her concerns that she had about technology, just trying to answer some of those questions for her, but also really kind of clarify the needs, because this is very on the horizon. It's not only good practice because we're getting our students ready for 21st century skills that they're going to need in the jobs and when they go off to college, but also it's mandates from the state. So we're trying to balance both of those as we move forward. So I just wanted to kind of lay the groundwork, not only for SBAC, that's going well, we're happy about that, but to also really talk just a little bit about some of the needs and give you a little bit of background. So as we do go through budget season, you do have a frame of reference for what we're really looking at and why we're requesting those things.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that's what the technology grant that we submitted was for the carts and the laptops.
Good memory, Bill. So we did submit for a grant for carts and laptops. That will be, if we get it, and everything crossed, okay, about $750,000. That will only target about 6 to maybe 10 carts for the high school and maybe a little bit for the elementary school. So it still will not get us up to where we need to be, especially at the high school. The high school has been the last in terms of our initiatives for technology. And certainly now, given all the demands for our kids as they're going off to college, they're getting jobs, they need that accessibility immediately. We're behind in that, and we need to catch up. We're getting there. I mean, we have smart boards. We have a lot of technology that we have been able to put in so that students are able to do a lot more than they've ever done before, but we're still lacking.
The other piece.
You can just jump into the question.
Quick question and then a point.
Sure.
Had we been led to believe by the state that they would release the results of last year's testing?
You know, they are still really fuzzy on that, John, to be
They were
honest with
weasels,
you.
because
Yeah.
they led us to believe that we were going to get those reported out.
Right.
And then they made such a mess of it that
Right.
they didn't get anything they could report out, and somehow we mistook what they said.
Right.
And the point I want to make on the standardized testing, and the state, and I'm sure this has been around from Dr. Diana Wenzel, the interim commissioner, the CEA's pushback and about standardized testing and how intrusive they are. You made that point. And parental response to all of this by not wanting their kids to take these tests. And the state pushed back with a memo that to me just makes the case for both wanting to pull your kid out of the tests and for looking at these tests as really getting in the way of instruction. And I'd be glad to share this with anyone who wants to see it, but they're their own worst enemy in the State Department sometimes. And that was all. Thank you.
I was just wondering, there was an article in the Hartford Current Education section online today stating that there are parents in various communities that are refusing to let their children take this test. I was just wondering if anybody in Torrington has expressed concerns about it.
Yeah, so far we do have some parents who have been very vocal about that. But it's a very small number in our town, similar to what we had last year. Last year we had 11 parents out there.
As one of the non-educators on the board, so we have a test, we took it last year, we have absolutely no results, and we're trying to take it again this year. And our benefit for doing that is what exactly?
The letter that John referred to says that it is a mandate and you will follow this. And it also tells parents, you will follow this to the letter of the law. Now, they don't talk about what's going to happen. Last year, I actually asked the State Department, I said, so what are you going to do? Take these people off to jail? And of course, they said no, but it's a very, very touchy subject. It's a high issue.
Part last year was we had to have a certain percentage of participation. What was it, 95?
Yes.
95% of students who were earmarked to take the test had to take the test. So that was the big thing that the state was looking for last year. It was more of a pilot to see how well the test worked. It was more for the company that makes the test than for school districts
Now we're getting to
to
it.
get results back and what worked and what did not work.
And parents have the ability to opt their children out of taking the test?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and the 95% is, I believe, still the current percentage, and I think that if we have fewer than 95% of the students take the test, we would be out of compliance, and our district could lose funding that we got through the No Child Left Behind. That being said, more than half of the states have opted out of this completely. It's a state-by-state decision. So Connecticut could choose to reject the SBAC, but currently they haven't. So the CEA, I think John mentioned, is kind of rallying for that. It's, you know, so there's an interesting argument to be made on both sides.
Dan?
Okay, I'll try to make this short tonight and figure tomorrow night will be a much longer discussion with regard to this. First, a point of clarification. In the last 24 months, we have spent more than $2.2 million on technology. So I don't think I'd ever call it lacking. I might find a different terminology, but I wouldn't call spending $2.2 million of taxpayer money lacking. As far as the fact that the computers are not available to students, as I said, I'm going through my own testing process at the moment for my own certification, so I will bring that information with me tomorrow night when I can compile it all. I believe every elementary school has a minimum of 3 computers per classroom, plus the teacher's computer, plus a smart board in every classroom, plus we have computers in libraries and computer labs and buildings. So if we can find grant money that's 100% paid for, and we can get some additional equipment, that's great. To turn around to look at it, spending additional money at this point without getting a solid base behind it, I'm not in favor of that. As far as the technology teachers are concerned, I don't think you'd want me teaching a classroom. Probably wouldn't be the greatest person on the planet to do it. I'm a technology guy. I see things as black and white. There is no such thing as gray. It's a bit. It's on or off. As far as that goes, you need to keep the two separate. If the decision of administration is to proceed with a more wireless and adaptive way of rolling out systems, then we need to look at our structure for technology within the district as far as staffing goes. We need to eliminate the management staff within the district that works for us and get more of the field technicians. Because the moment you start rolling out wireless cards, there is no more such thing as rolling out updates to computers overnight. You can't turn a computer on like you can with a hardwired computer and have it update. You have to send a tech. If the card isn't plugged in, the card has to be gone through. Now you get a card that comes into a classroom, somebody forgot to plug it in, who's going to be responsible for that? Is that a teacher responsibility? Is that a secretary's responsibility? Is that an IT responsibility? You open up a whole new can of worms with this. Technology is great if used correctly. Technology solely for the use of technology and saying it's the latest and greatest isn't the best thing. So I understand that there are challenges with that spec. I understand there are challenges with testing. But before we start going down a path, let's make sure we know what that path is. I don't want to just spend money for the sake of spending money.